And we are back. Like Terminator 2, the only good sequel. Just kidding. I'm sure there's some other ones out there. But we are back today with Astro Kennels, Working Dogs, and all those cool dudes, Doug and Mello. We're about to jump into this episode and let you guys check it out. But before we do, I want to give a quick little reminder to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're almost to the goal of 100. And getting to 100 allows us to change the channel name so we can actually be a little bit more official. So do that. Be on the lookout for new stuff coming out this week as well. This week, as in we're about to jump into October 5th. It is officially spooky season, boys and girls. So check that out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Don't forget to check out the website. Updates, put your email in for all the updates, info for all the drops, merchandise, new podcast episodes. Check that out, as well as follow the Instagram. Make sure that you are up to date on everything. That is where I'm most active at. All right, let's get into it. Episode 13 of Circuit Craft Podcast. And today with me, I have a special guests, plural. I have Doug and Mello with me with Astro Kennels. So before we get too much into it, how are you guys going? How are you guys doing today?
Man, loving fall in the upstate. It's doing very well. It's finally not 90 degrees and it's awesome to work dogs outside again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not cooking outside. We're loving it up here.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's... Oh man, it's funny because we went, we were actually going to stop by and visit y'all a couple of weeks ago. We went hiking, and even though the weather was nicer at the time, it was still just humid enough to make it kind of miserable going through stuff. And I was like, man, it's supposed to be a little less humid than it is in the Midlands and stuff like that, but awesome. So a little coverage of the podcast, what to expect moving forward. We're going to discuss their background, a little bit of what it takes, their experience level, what and who they are training, as well as some of their working dog selections, sale of working dogs, and of course, Astro Kennel and their services they provide for you. So just a little basic info. Both of Doug and Mello both are at Astro Kennels, where they're both trainers, handlers, and they're both very experienced. And we'll go ahead and get that off. But before we get too deep into it, we'll do the general 3 questionnaire, goofy questions kind of stuff. And more or less, it's just kind of like silly stuff. But as always, one of my favorite questions, and I've asked this one before, but what is each of your favorite cuts of steak?
Mine is definitely filet. You're getting that and nice medium rare on that. So
perfect.
Hopefully I don't tongue twist this. Prime rib, medium rare.
It was funny. I had one guy come on the podcast. It was like a couple episodes ago, and he was telling me, he says his favorite was actually filet mignon as well, that's mine, and you have the perfect cook on it as well, medium rare. That's exactly how I like mine as well. But he was like, yeah, prime rib is like the geriatric steak cut. And he's like, name one person who likes prime rib. And I was like, I don't know.
This guy.
So now I can name one person who likes prime rib. It's awesome.
It's like this random dude named Mello I know.
Yeah, that's right. So additionally, as I say that, with steaks and stuff like that, there's always pet peeves like being overcooked, and nothing ruins a steak like an overcooked steak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it completely kills you. So that being said, what is your biggest pet peeve? And this can be in regards to in general in life, or it can just be with dog handling and all that.
It's intolerance of not listening and taking advice when you're trying to help somebody out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's definitely up there.
And it goes hand in hand with dog training. You're always trying to help somebody out, and it's just you get somebody who's stubborn, and it's like, yep, I would like to help you out. You don't listen, and I'm sorry I can't help you.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's funny that you bring that up.
Mine's a little bit more laid back. Mine has nothing to do with dogs. It's people that chew with their mouth open. Oh, God, drives me crazy.
So both of those are pretty much hit 100% home with me because I do enjoy trying to go out of my way and helping people or giving them, my experiences or anything like that. And it's funny that you bring up with canines and stuff because a lot of the stuff that I've learned or I've been taught is basically down from Adam, and he's learned that from you. So, a lot of the stuff that he taught me is kind of down the line, and, pretty much what you just said is nail in the head. It's like, telling people, it's like, well, how are you able to do that? And you kind of try to give them that background, kind of tell them how to do it. And then like, a month later, I'll swing and I'll say, hey, how's everything going with such and such? Oh, well, we weren't able to really keep up with it. And I was like, okay, well, don't waste my time anymore.
Amen. Yeah.
But yeah, with the mouth eating, my wife is gonna smack me after she listens to this because I'll give like a side look, especially like with eating. Like I have like this OCD when it comes to like food and stuff, and just like you said, like eating with your mouth open, it just. Well,
if you make your way back down to the upstate, we do have some extra dog kennels that you can sleep in.
Yeah, that probably will be. Yeah, that's probably about right. So we'll wrap up the questions with one more, and 'tis the season. It is Halloween season, October. What is your favorite scary movies?
Man, it's a tough one. I'm gonna have to go with Friday the 13th.
There you go, old school.
Yeah, old school on that one.
The Shining.
Awesome,
for sure.
Have you watched the new movie, the part 2? Can't remember what it's called now.
To The Shining?
Yeah, it just came out. Dr. Sleep, that's what it was.
No, it just came out this year.
Yeah, it should be on. You should be able to stream it now. Like it was in, I think, theaters like the end of last year, and then it came out not too long ago. But it was actually pretty good. It ties it all up decently. Probably not as good as the books if you've read the books, but yeah, that's The Shining. I think is one of my number ones as well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so that's funny. Episode 13 and Friday the 13th. So it's too bad it's not the 13th of October, but
hey, that would
have been pretty baller. But we'll go ahead and get into it, and we'll go ahead and start with everything. So I'll give you guys a quick moment to introduce yourselves and a little bit of your background before we jump headfirst into it. So I'll start with alphabetical order. So Doug, go ahead and give me a little bit of your background.
Background is. Ended up graduating from Seton Hall University. Majored in criminal justice. Way before going into college, I wanted to either be a lawyer or a vet, and it happened to be in my career path. Ended up getting into law enforcement, so that kind of took the path of. I didn't make it to being a lawyer, but I got to deal with the legal profession in a way. And then in doing and falling in love with law enforcement, I happened to fall into canine, and that's been my career path ever since. And dealing with dogs from basically 2002 all the way to the present time at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and the head trainer there, and working dogs from 2002 till present day. And it's built my career up at the Sheriff's Office and through the working dog community. And that's how I got affiliated with Astro. Is I wanted to work and train like personal dogs, personal protection dogs, working dogs, and Astro offers all that. So I ended up getting involved with Astro Kennels. So it's been a dog world all the way for me since 2002, and I've went through canine trainer school in 2006. I became a master trainer for the North American Police Work Dog Association. An accredited master trainer in 2014. And that's one of the hardest things I've done in law enforcement. So it's really been a steadfast focus for me in the dog world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So we'll go ahead and before I start picking away and asking question after question, how about you, Mello?
So you should probably start with me because mine's a lot lighter. Graduated high school, joined the military, was in the Army National Guard for 6 years. While I was in the Guard, I joined law enforcement. The past roughly 4 years, I've been working dogs. Got into the working dog side, had many great opportunities down here, expanded my career, my knowledge with the dogs. Absolutely love it. And then I just transitioned to Astro Kennels working dog side of things from law enforcement, and now I'm full time over here and loving every minute of it.
Awesome. Yeah, you kind of have to, don't you? Kind of have to say that.
Oh,
right now. I'm just playing. So
yeah. The boss man's sitting right here. I got to be good.
you must be pretty good if he's allowing you to come on here and talk too. So, but that's awesome. So I know you mentioned 2002. So have you always been around dogs and stuff like that growing up?
Yeah, growing up, my family, I grew up around old English sheepdogs. And if anybody out there knows the breed, that requires a lot of grooming. So as a very young boy, I learned really quick how to use a nice brush to brush out your dog. So that was my responsibility since I wanted an animal. So my mom and dad, they taught me the responsibility of how much to work and to feed a dog and to actually groom it. So that was the start of my love for dogs. And I've always been an animal person. And like any a good story, boys and their dogs, I went everywhere with that dog. I mean, between ice hockey when I was a kid, you'd be there with me playing street hockey, going to walks, rollerblading. I even taught him how to pull me around town when I got lazy. So it's always been dogs for me. And then as I got older, I got into basically just watching dog sports and enjoyed just the dog personality and being able to understand dogs better than some humans. So that's where my love for the dog training came in.
Gotcha. Same. So I guess you can say the same question for you, Mello. Have you always had like a dog, or has there always been an influence of dogs around you growing up?
Yeah. So I grew up, we've always had golden retrievers. So, I was always running the vacuum, constantly vacuuming up their long hair all the time. Yeah. And then my parents, they got me into CNI dogs and working dogs as puppies. So when I was in high school, I'd volunteer time and work with those dogs, and my passion for dogs grew from there. And then in my law enforcement career early on, I was able to attend a Napwato workshop and got to decoy and catch some of the dogs. And from there, it was just game over. Like, my mind was set. And I was doing nothing in my life but canine from that point on.
Awesome. So with both of you guys having a law enforcement career, and then Mello, you having a military career, in military, did you have any kind of handling of dogs? Did you see them frequently?
No, I never had the opportunity to work with any of the military dogs.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, but in law enforcement, both of you guys have pretty extensive experience while in law enforcement working with dogs, or at least kind of starting off there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Did you guys both have like an actual dog partner while in law enforcement as well?
Yeah. Yes. When I got my first dog, I started decoying for the sheriff's office in 2002. And was learning. That's what was my addiction to canine. I was in a unit that had a dog program. We had 2 at the time, and it was they needed somebody to get in that fight suit, and I was like, "Hey, I'll do it." And I enjoyed it from the day I got into it, and seeked out every class I could go. A spot opened up, and I got my first canine partner. Basically started in 2002. He finally graduated class in 2003, and it was Canine Roscoe. Which was an all-black German Shepherd, with my first dog. And that first dog you have the ultimate bond. And he actually, in his working career, actually took a bullet for me and actually made a full recovery. But I've been in love with canine ever since. And I kind of joke at the sheriff's office and even at Astro Kennels, we teach people how to be canine handlers, not like a cop with a dog. So our love of training dogs, and then also adding the tactical side of actually being safe. And so handlers go home. That's really my love. But I've had 3 dogs that I've actually worked on the road at the sheriff's office. I had Roscoe, I had Rick, and then I also had Stryker, were my 3 main partners that I had at the sheriff's office.
Gotcha. Were they all German Shepherds?
I had 1 German Shepherd and 1 Malinois and 2 Malinois. So it was 1 German Shepherd, which was Roscoe. And then Stryker was a Malinois, a Belgian Malinois, and Rick was a Belgian Malinois.
Gotcha. And with you, Mello, did you similar kind of circumstance?
Yeah, I got my dog in 2016. We graduated from our handler course, which was a glorious 800 hours of training. And we graduated in 2017. I had a Belgian Malinois, and it was just full throttle from there.
Awesome.
It's actually funny. I added my hours up from all the training and stuff I've done over the past 3.5 years, and it was over 3,000, almost 3,000 hours of training.
Holy man, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you build such a bond with them. It's just, you can't describe it. Cause I mean, they're with you your whole shift, and you put all this work into this product that you have. And it's just, words can't explain it.
Yeah. And if your dogs could talk, we'd be in trouble.
Oh yeah.
They know our keepers dogs.
Yeah. Cause I mean, like when you're developing that much time, in reality, you have to have a passion for it. I mean, you have to. And then, like you said, creating that bond, and, there's that mutual passion between the dog itself, because, those guys they're gung ho, and they're selected for that too. So, they're ready to do their job, and you have to be able, like you said, be the handler when you go home, not just a law enforcement, a canine. That's really cool though. So you mentioned 800 hours, and that was gonna be my next question. So, and you, and Doug, you were telling me that you had applied for it and then you were able to get it. So that was actually pretty quick, so I guess sometimes I feel like it's a position that a lot of people like the idea of or being in, but sometimes someone who's in there probably doesn't need to be. But at the same time, yeah.
That God opened doors for me, and I have fallen. I'm lucky and blessed by God, because certain things legitimately fell on my lap. I got into canine. Ended up working there from 2000 with my first dog, and thank God I had a shepherd, because if I had a Malinois first, I wouldn't be around right now. The shepherd actually was like, "Oh wow, you really can't do that." And he would tell me, he wouldn't tell me that, but he would look at me and be like, "No, I'm running this bus. You can't do that." So if I had a Malinois don't think, I would have been over the bridge, jumping and all that stuff. But it fell in the line. So I had him, and then our trainer at the time at the sheriff's office, he left to better himself, and he ended up leaving to becoming a chief deputy at a department. So I can't blame him. And actually, I learned so much from him. His name is John Gardner. That opened up a void at the sheriff's office, and that's how I ended up going to trainer school. And that opened up a whole nother realm of the dog world. So I felt real lucky, because normally it's 3 to 5 years of law enforcement experience. Right. By the time I got my first dog, I think I was a police officer for 2.5 years. Right now, like if we took present day, we don't even take handlers out of my sheriff's office. They have to have 3 years of working the road. I wouldn't even have been eligible. So I'm really blessed, and God opened up many doors for me. I mean, not only in the sheriff's office, but actually at Astro Kennels. I mean, it happens to be that I ended up meeting my wife, because Astro Kennels is owned by my in-laws, and that's a blessing for myself when that happened.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, and that was gonna be my next. So, Mello, you did mention 800 hours, and I think that's going to tie into my next question. But like, so when you go to become a canine handler and you have to take the course, the handling course, so is it normally like 800, like almost volunteer hours, or is it like 800 class hours going to classes and kind of getting better handling? Like how does that work when you're going through that course?
So the way the course works, it's 600 hours of class with the dog. You're learning how to teach them how to hunt for dope. Then you get into the hidden hides of dope, and you're doing all that. And then you get into the aggression control portion, the tracking, and all that. That's about 600 hours to get that utility dog 100% ready to go. And then we do 200 hours of scenario-based training, and tactical movements with the dogs, building, clearing, tracking to a bite, going under fire, returning fire, all that good stuff. Funny story for you. Day one of my class.
This is great.
I learned a very valuable rule right off the rip, and it's don't put your finger in your dog's mouth. Day one was playing with my dog. The toy systems that we use, it's a red hose. I went to grab the red hose and slid my finger right in the back of the molars. And as you know, the molars are designed for crunching, and he crunched my finger, broke the tip of my finger, had to get a pin put in it. So set me back a little bit there, but we got back on track and we finally completed it.
There you go. Now with, obviously, 800 hours, but obviously you can't do it all just back to back, or maybe you can. So, over about how many months or so, do you have to dedicate towards that when you're working towards that?
Usually it depends.
Sure.
If sometimes dogs, we initially get them and they kind of grow into their own. If you get them pretty young, they can develop bad habits, or they could have habits that we're not even aware of that come up during training, and then you can almost get reset on your dog. So usually it's roughly about 3 months, give or take. You're looking at, because you are running back to back. We usually run through the week, and then it's just nonstop going.
Gotcha. So, I mean, it is, you're pretty much gung ho, or you have to be, really. And of course, with dogs, a lot of that stuff is repetition too. And then also being a handler and learning and training, you kind of have to build that in yourself as well. So you're not creating bad habits, like you said.
Yeah, of course. If you're not motivated and your heart is not there, you won't make it. Like you physically and mentally will shut down and not be able to perform.
Yeah, especially in the class, because we train the dogs in that class. They are green. And for people that don't know what a green dog is, it's a dog that really knows nothing. It's a bull in the china shop is what I call it. They just come out. They have no obedience. They have no idea what they're doing. And we are molding them and shaping them for what we want. We take that dog's natural behaviors and we channel them for what we want. So whatever target order we're teaching. So those handlers learn how to do all that. And it's pretty exhausting on them. And I kind of have an adage. It's kind of like being a canine's one of the best things that you can do. And for the people that really love it, it's kind of the shine off the penny doesn't go off for true handlers. But the old handlers, the ones that want to be, I call them Hollywood handlers. Yeah. They just want a dog in a car and go around. The shine goes off the penny real quick, and you can tell real easy. The motivation goes down. And I laugh because you get the dog that you deserve, and you get the dog that you put the energy in. So you can tell the handlers that are squared away because their dogs come out with the amount of energy that's necessary to do the job.
Right. And I think it also replicates, kind of like you said, with the energy from the handler and vice versa. But I think a lot of the dogs feed off that too. So if you're gung ho and you're challenging him, then he's definitely gonna feed off that and put his limit to it as well.
And then we have some handlers that are just straight cat people. Straight cat people.
That blows my mind that you would have people who are, cat people or something like that, and then somehow they get selected, or they're dealing with this, and just kind of like,
if you look at it though, sometimes smaller agencies or even bigger agencies, sometimes these interview boards don't really show the person's true colors. Like they don't come out to canine training prior, so you really don't know this person until they're stepping in, and they just it's a cluster.
Yeah, like you said, you're either completely in it, or you may have someone who just realized they're way over their head, and this is not what they were thinking it was going to be signed up for.
Yep.
So I know with law enforcement canines, or just working canines like that as well. So I know you have narcotics, you have stuff with regards to like bite work and stuff like that. So generally, it sounds like you guys mostly handle a lot of German Shepherds and Malinois, but I know that, other canines in law enforcement that actually don't have any kind of bite work or anything like that, but they actually do more narcotic stuff. Do you guys handle a lot of I'll say labs and stuff like that come through as well, who don't have that expectation?
Yeah. In the same thing when we're looking at it, we look at a dog and you're looking at, say you get a lab, you get a pointer. We're still looking at the whole thing when it comes down to it. We look at the dog's behaviors. We're making sure the dog has the confidence, the courage, is definitely a good selection that when we select these dogs. So yeah, we do it. And that's the whole thing. We at Astro, we train accelerant detection, human remains detection, explosive detections, narcotic detection. We get that. And we have a lot of single purpose dogs that'll do live find where they're finding humans out there and that are non-aggressive.
Awesome.
And doing that. So we look at the same characteristic traits. We need a dog that's going to be strong. We're going to make sure that dog is going to be able to tolerate the stress. I kind of equate it. Not every dog can be a working dog. The dog has to have the right temperament. It has to have the right behaviors for us to be able to modify, because we channel a dog's natural behavior. a dog has to hunt for its food. A dog has to hunt for water. A dog has to be able for species preservation, has to mate. So we use all these behaviors that a dog's naturally doing, and we hone it for whatever target owner. So if it's narcotics, we teach it. And the agency wants marijuana, methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. That's perfectly fine. We'll take that and we teach it through classical and operant conditioning. So, I mean, it works out really well.
And, a common misconception, too, is that German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois or Belgian Malinois German Shepherd mix can't be used for single purpose. That's not the case. Some of those dogs have natural temperaments where they're a lot calmer. And they don't want to engage. They have a good hunt drive, so we use them for narcotics, EODs, stuff like that. Sure. Where they're not going to be bite dogs. We use the term floppy ear, pointy ear dogs. So it really, it's a case by case per dog. Every dog is different, and then we just basically put the dogs through a series of tests, and we determine what that dog is going to be utilized for, whether it's single purpose, meaning narcotic tracking only, or dual purpose where it's a full utility dog.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. So, and you kind of touched on it earlier when you said you guys will have really green dogs. And Adam had actually told me that prior, that, a lot of dogs that are getting into this, they, obedience is kind of like the last thing that they're worried about, because they don't want to tone back or take anything away from the primary, focus of what that dog's being trained for. So like you said, you can have a rowdy bunch in there, and just, hellions. I can only imagine Mals and stuff like that, and shepherds and Dutchies and all that crap. And I can only imagine how much little devils they can be. So with that being said, how old are they in this point for the most part? Because I know it all obviously won't always be the same, but
most part, I mean, we're looking at, we try to get dogs that are no younger than say 14 months.
Gotcha.
Bring them in and importing them in from Europe. That's big for us. We'd like 14 to 18 months because they're most multiple. And when we say green, I mean, they still, for the utility side, that they will know how to actually hit a sleeve, maybe hit a suit. Sure. We still have to do it, that they'll hunt for an object. And so they are, it's kind of a miss. Any dog they have some type of training, because you just don't leave a dog in a kennel and it gets there. It's like when we do puppy rear Astro, yes, they're green because we're not putting a whole bunch of obedience and everything else on it until we determine what job it needs. So it's kind of funny. So we just take these dogs out and they're getting exposures. We want to make sure they're not getting kennelitis, that they are social with people, because that's the misnomer of law enforcement dogs. I get calls all the time, when you calls at Astro, and they're like, "Hey, I got a really mean dog." I'm like, "No, sir, we don't get mean dogs. We don't want your mean dog. We want dogs that, it's called aggression control for a reason. It's controlled, and we just hone it. We don't want a dog that's going to be mean, that does that, or it's going to go out." And that's what we're looking for.
Gotcha. Very, very cool. So I know you mentioned doing some test work and stuff like that to or just kind of see a scale of these dogs and what you think they're most capable of. So when you guys work with agencies or anyone, or even personal protection dogs and stuff like that, how many, I don't want to say, how many dogs in a litter are you able to kind of get the exact thing that you're looking for per litter or something?
When we're doing our puppy littering, and it's kind of like I tell most people, we'll just throw out raw numbers. If you have 10, you have to look at it. Your personal protection dogs need to be very squared away. They have to be non-aggressive to small animals, not aggressive to other dogs, not aggressive to small children. So like for me at Astro Kennels, my personal protection dogs are the cream of the crop. And when I say that, my personal protection dog can work in law enforcement or personal protection.
Gotcha.
And why I say that is because they really have a good on-off switch. They have the ability to work civil. They have availability to work around children. All the dogs that we do for personal protection legitimately live at my house, or worked with my children, and they're in and out of my floors once we teach them how to bite. Then we start putting the obedience on. So they're here. Then like the utility side for law enforcement, those are the dogs that in law enforcement, we control our environments a little bit more than what a personal protection dog can, because when we're out, we're normally going to be on a search warrant. We're going to have a little bit more control of that environment, so we can have, I'm not saying edgier dog, but a dog that's a little bit more dog aggressive, which we don't even select that. So that's what we're looking at. But some agencies have dogs that are dog aggressive, so which is not a problem because they control that. They control the access of people coming in and out of their search area.
Right.
And then we have other dogs in that litter that can do like single purpose work or sport work. Like they can hit a hard sleeve, they can work a suit, but they really can't work out in the law enforcement side because they have some type of environmental issue. Then we have our single purpose dogs out of that litter. So you're looking, you could probably say about 50%. You're going to get one or two that can get into your personal protection and law enforcement. And then you're going to get a few that can do your single purpose odor work. So you're almost looking at a 50% when you're doing puppy rearing.
Gotcha. So, and that always, that's
that's our experience in our breeding program when we look at it. But the best part about our breeding program, we treat all the dogs the same. So like at Astro, when we do our breeding, all the dogs that didn't make it into law enforcement or personal protection, they have the courage because they've been built up on all this exposure. So somebody actually ends up getting a nice dog that's well-rounded, but it's a great pet. So that's the beauty of it, that we do all this build up even for our pet side.
Awesome. I would say, so, obviously some of those parameters will be different per who you're going through, but with you guys, that's what you guys are seeing.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. So it's different on everything else, and don't want to talk for other people that say their program does what it needs to do. And most of the dogs that we get for our personal protection and law enforcement side, we're importing from Europe. We're going and collecting and getting that done.
I was about to say, and that was my next question. So like when you guys are importing from Europe, what are the most popular countries you guys are normally sourcing? And obviously it's never going to be the same because, obviously can't keep going tapping the same area, but where do you guys focus in, or where's the best area, or I guess the highest percent rate?
Well, when we're looking on that, it's not really, we go around and we talk to different vendors that are over in Europe, sure. And and they're all over. I mean, when you're looking at we look at Germany, we look at Poland, we look at Hungary, we look at Czech, Holland. So, I mean, I couldn't even really give you a percentage on where we're getting them.
For an example, our last batch of dogs, every dog came from a different country.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We take the time on our end to really select the best dog that we can find. Like we don't want to settle on dogs from one location. We want the best. And then when you get into that, they start pulling from different countries.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. So I know you had already mentioned it before. Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you guys offer a breeding program that is more domestic in state, or is it just primarily for the time being you're just sourcing these litters from out of country, from Europe?
We do a little bit of both. And the thing about it, most people don't realize it. Remember, I gave you that number of we're looking at 14 to 18 months. So you have a litter, then you have to puppy rear it, and then you're coming at the 14 to 18 month mark when we start actually doing a lot of stuff. So if we do one or two litters, we have a litter now, it's a year later. So with the demand that we have, a lot of times we do place our puppies into what we sell for law enforcement and personal protection. But a lot of times the demand, when we get it's so high, and it's awesome that we just have to go outside that puppy rearing side and pick up other dogs. Gotcha.
Very cool. So with different breeds and stuff like that, what breeds are you guys usually training the most? So we've mentioned Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, German Shepherds, and then of course, other dogs like Labs and stuff. But what do you guys normally have come to the door? But it's probably gonna be the same answer. It's gonna be kind of like a mix mash of both of when you guys are sourcing litters, right?
You're looking at the litters that we do. We stay with we had a while ago. We had Springer Spaniels that we were sourcing. Those are good little dogs for odor detection family. We've moved several of those dogs into service work for local law enforcement for emotional support. So we'll have some sheriff's offices actually buy dogs. So if somebody's been abused or they're having mental problems in that we can use that dog to calm them down. So some agencies have bought our Springers for that. Springers have been used in narcotic detection and explosive detection. They're a good breed for that because of their temperament. That we've bred those, and we have bred German Shepherds. And a lot of our German Shepherds that we have had work are in personal protection, and we have a lot of those in search and rescue, either on live find or in human remains work.
Very cool. Very cool. What on average is the most frustrating breed to handle? And obviously it's all going to depend on temperament of each dog as well. But
that's like a trick question, because it really, look at it. I always have an adage, and I tell all my trainers that you train the dog that's in front of you.
Right.
It's the dog. So like the good thing about it, when we're doing a selection process like when we select our dogs, that's why we do our selection process. So we know the dog will come in. So when you're looking at it, you have to have different ways to train. Like you can't train a lab or a Springer the same way you train a German Shepherd and Malinois. Because think about it, it's a Labrador Retriever for a reason. It retrieves a lot more than a German Shepherd who herds. So you have different behaviors that you actually have to recognize that as a trainer. So for me, I really don't get stuck on breeds. I get stuck on, okay, the dog comes out, I need to modify the training for the dog. And that's what makes us unique at Astro Kennels, because any dog that comes through our door, we tailor a training plan for the dog based on true training principles from the law enforcement side and from our multiple trainers, and we bring that to our clients.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes more sense. And like, now that I think about it, this was kind of like a little bit of a trick question, but yeah, that does make sense, especially since you guys take part in that selection and dealing with stuff like that. And probably the most frustrating part is actually the handler, generally speaking, the most part, right?
Yeah, especially I like I said, all I do is train. Every day is Groundhog's Day for me, and I love it because it's God's given me Groundhog's Day in a job that I've really never worked a day in my life. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of stress, but I really enjoy dogs. Like, me and the dogs get along perfectly fine. All the dogs love me. And then
the humans not so much.
Yeah, the humans not so much, because the hardest thing about being a trainer, especially when you're going high end, is trying, especially when you have a green dog and a green handler. And a lot of guys and anybody that listens to the podcast that's been in my class understand it's Dougie's. I say something and I get glazed over because I only probably have told them half of what to do. And I expect them to be able to read my mind. So that does happen. The hardest thing really is to be able to communicate to a human really quick, because we have to mold that dog and reward that dog and within a second to a second and a half of a desired behavior. And that's the hardest part for me, because I have 5 steps in my head already designed. If the dog does A, I need to do B. If he does C, I do D. But green handlers don't. So when we have the green dogs, green handlers, it's really trying, because the handlers are trying. They really are. And it's just having that knowledge base and to be patient with the humans. The dogs are the easy part. It's the handlers are the hard part.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, having the opportunity to go from being in Doug's class to now training dogs with Doug is seeing like where these handlers start off at, and then knowing where they're going to finish and looking back at it. And you're like, man, was I just like that? And Doug's like, yeah, you were. So, I mean, it puts a really good perspective on it. And like you said, these guys are out there trying their hardest, and they're trying to learn everything they can. It's sometimes very difficult.
Gotcha. So when you're doing that, whether it be, law enforcement or if it be a personal protection, that's kind of like, I think, what I'm focusing on the most. But, what are good resources to utilize other than going to like classes, seminars and meetings and stuff like that? Like, what's the best way to really just hone your skills or, kind of almost study in a way?
Well, for the personal protection, and that's the one thing that's unique. We give them an insight, especially when we're starting to pair. The dog's been, say, initially trained. We have them done. We meet and go with any of our personal protection dogs we sell. We go out there, regardless of where we're going. We're going to go out. We're going to pair it. We're going to actually do a security check of your house. We're going to make sure that your house is squared away, that you understand what the dog does, and we're going to train in your house. So your dog's already experienced on that. And that's awesome on that aspect. But we also start teaching them, and that's the benefit of having law enforcement being able to help some of these people, especially with Lance coming over. We go in and we explain about, hey, be aware of your surroundings. this dog's going to help you in a way where if you use the dog, I kind of call it, that dog gives you that sixth sense. His breathing will change, his hair will stand up, his ears will do something. And once you start to know that, and then you're bonded with your dog, those dogs give us so much information that we teach the personal protection owner how to read, so they understand that they know when somebody's coming to the door well before the doorbell goes off, or now in technology, the ring sends them a video of it. So that's the best part of it. We give them that little extra of, hey, look, that dog gives you that 3 to 5 seconds, especially in personal protection, to get out of the house, call 911. Go get your firearm if you believe in firearms. I do. I mean, my thing is for my wife with our personal protection dog, it's go out there. That dog's to protect the family. You get out of the house and you call 911. But that's there. You give that, and we give them that type of tooling at Astro. We make sure we give them the tools that, number one, they feel safe working the dog. Number two, they know how to work the dog. And 3, give them a little bit of security behind that.
That's awesome. And it could be more or less my ignorance, but I don't think I've ever heard of anyone actually going out and going to the house. I know about pairing and stuff like that. So I know other people have done pairing and stuff like that. So you make sure you have a good compatibility with the dog itself. But that's really cool that you guys actually go to an actual house, check everything out, run the whole scenario and stuff like that, and really give those really unique resources. I've never heard of that before. But that's awesome. One of the unique things that's about us, when anybody comes in and calls, we get a whole bunch of calls, and I tell everybody, hey, I want to meet face to face. If we don't get a personal response that when we're talking about personal protection, even law enforcement, there's no smoke and mirrors at Astro. I want people to come in. I have a checklist I go through with personal protection. I'm asking how many grandkids you have. I mean, it depends on the age of the couple. Sure. If it's a young couple that's going to get married, are you planning on having kids? I mean, I get that in depth because we're looking at a good investment that's going to save your family. A lot of people don't like having guns around. I mean, I have 2 young kids. All my guns are locked up. My personal protection dog's squared away. My daughter loves training them. I mean, she's involved. It's a family sport for us. But we literally bring them in. We ask them this, because this goes back to why do we get one of the best dogs that we go? Because I go after I talk to my client, and we select the dog based on the client's profile. So they say they ride horses. Well, I make sure at some point that during that selection process that I can try to mimic. A lot of times I can't, but I'll look at a dog and try to get around a horse, a donkey, a small animal. Same thing if that person has cats. Okay, I need to make sure this dog's not aggressive to a small, and we're really a family business, and it's truly we are at your service, and we want to build that and hone that and be one-on-one with the clients. That's awesome. That's really in depth too. I mean, it just doesn't seem like you really hear too many people doing that and going out of the way, because that way, like you said, it's an investment too. So you want to make sure that when you guys are investing the amount of time into and having, and doing selection, that the customer is actually going to invest their time and follow through with it. Which it's funny that you bring that up, because I agree with you totally. It's funny that more or less people, I think they forget the amount of time you have to invest in dogs. You have to, a lot of repetition, a lot of stuff you have to continue doing to keep building that. And, some people, I think it's all nice and dandy when it's a puppy or when it's young and it's cute. And then when you have to continue doing that, and then, like you said, people not calling back after you want to meet up, I think that's pretty much nail on the head too. That's always frustrating too.
Yeah, it is. And that's the other unique thing. When we're training dogs, either for law enforcement or even for the personal protection, we bring those handlers in, the owners and everything else throughout the process. I mean, I've offered personal protection. I've had clients, hey, every day that I'm working their dog, they're there. And that's something that's unique about buying local. And it's the same thing, even not being local, we get some video clips. We show our clients how we train the dog. So there's not a myth or anything else behind it. It's not some magic. It's not anything else. We show you how the dog was trained so you can fix it later. So you can go back to the basic step and be able to fix it all. Because the dog's it's a living, breathing animal. And the other thing that's unique with us, we literally, with our training contract for that first year, we push owners, hey, get involved. And even after that, we'll ask them, hey, look, your year's up. Let's get some more training in, because a dog is a creature of habit. And it'll always fall back to the easiest way of not working if you want to turn it into a pet.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree with that one. Very cool. So, with that being said, and this is probably one of those things that fluctuates as well. And I'm gonna have two parts with this. So, on average, about how many dogs do you work each? Not I guess each session, but how many different dogs do you normally work annually on average, give or take?
When you're looking at that's a tough question. If you're looking at, are you looking at the pet side, or are you looking at utility and personal protection?
Well, I'll say with utility and personal protection.
Okay, when you're looking at that on a given year, we try to do our classes. We kind of we keep our utility sides small because we want a high student to teacher ratio, because number one, especially in the law enforcement side, we're teaching tactics. So we try to keep our classes between 5 to 8 handlers at a time, because we have no downtime in our classes. That's one thing that I'm known for, is there is no downtime. If we work 8 hours, you might get a lunch break. Usually not, because every minute that I can put into a handler and save one handler's life, I know I did my job. We're big on, they're going to learn how to train their dog, but they're still going to learn that law enforcement side. They're going to learn how to go home and be able to go home to their family. That's number one. They have to learn how to be a canine handler, just not a cop with a dog. So we teach the tactics on that. So when you're looking at that, and it's pretty much every 12 weeks we're doing it. So you're looking at about 20 to 30 utility dogs a year, give or take. Gotcha. And then when we're looking at the personal protection side, we roll that in, and those come in with our working side. But that's basically driven on how many personal protection dogs come in. We usually do 5 to 10 a year on that side.
Gotcha. So with, like I said, that's part 2 of that question is on average, how many different, do you deal with multiple state agencies, or do you guys mostly just home locally and kind of just stay within like South Carolina and all that stuff?
Right now, I mean, we're growing. Our working dog side is just increasing, but no, we do multiple states. We've had Georgia, we've had North Carolina, South Carolina, and we're getting more and more interest. We've had a few come in from out west. So no, we're growing at a steady rate, because one of the things that we like to do at Astro Kennels is that we're not going to just teach a certification. We're going to push a certification, which is a minimum to get out, and then we're going to go into scenario-based training. We're going to basically teach TCCC. Like, we're going to teach, okay, if you get shot, what are you going to do? How are you going to put a tourniquet on? Okay, you're going in, you're going to learn how to shoot one-handed. So the biggest thing about us is that we're training that officer to legitimately be a canine handler, be able to effectively, efficiently do that. And then the other side of that is we teach a lot of case law, the ins and outs of what to do. One of the things that I can't stand, and I see on video after video on YouTube and everything released, because you can bite somebody doesn't make it right. You have to be within state law. You have to be within federal law. And one of the unique things that Lance brought in is he's asking agencies if he can have his policies, which is an awesome idea, because as we all know, and this is maybe a little out of scope, we have federal law we have to abide by, the state law. And then the problem is, if we have restrictions and policies on what you can utilize a dog for, we have to go by those. We have to go by which is the most restrictive. So that's one of the unique things that makes us different than a lot of other vendors out there.
Very good. Very good. So I'll kind of start shifting the gear just a little bit with dogs and stuff like that, and kind of some of the more, I want to say specific questions, but more or less kind of like some of the tools that you guys like to utilize. So obviously you have like a bite suit, and I have to ask, but is that like one of the biggest like adrenaline rushes when you're using a bite suit?
Well, not really. The biggest ones are when you don't have anything on and you're watching new handlers have a toy, and you're like, he's going to drop the leash and the dog's looking at me. So, but no, when you're first in it, it is awesome. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's an addiction, because you learn so much from dog behavior when you have a dog that comes in, it's confident. And we're a little different. You have the sport realm that teaches basically, they teach prey, defense, and social. We don't teach that. We basically teach a dog fighting. So it's like a linebacker, like running you over. And that's awesome to feel when that dog counters and it's all technique. So you definitely have to get up and come to our decoy workshop, because we definitely, we teach how to counter dogs and actually teach you the behaviors of a dog, so you can actually understand how to read that.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
So, yeah, no, and that pretty awesome when you're doing it. But yeah, we use a bite suit, we use a hidden sleeve, we have fake arms, we have leather gauntlets. They're unique to wear. That really hurts, and sometimes you're like, wow, all I have is leather on, and you're like, what's happening right now? So.
What
real quick on that whole topic too, we have a decoy seminar coming up on October 24th at Astro, which you can find it online, Facebook, all that good stuff. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'll have all that stuff plugged in too, so we'll have all kind of local stuff and make sure that's kind of up to date on upcoming events as well. So I have to, additionally with the bite suit, what is if you know off the top of your head, what is the hardest hitting dog that you've ever experienced, if you know, or recollection?
It depends on the dog. I mean, sometimes you get shepherds that hit a little bit slower, but their bite pressures can be harder.
Right.
Sometimes you get males that hit at 100 miles per hour, but they don't go as deep as a shepherd, or vice versa. I mean, everything is really just dog to dog based.
Right.
And if you're wearing a little bit older suit, sometimes you feel the bite a little bit more. It's a little bit worn in. So you go home with you get some puncture marks on the inside of your arm. You're like, yeah, that's pretty deep.
And that's the one thing I tell people: if you're going to get in the canine, you're going to get it eventually. You're going to get bit, not eventually. At some point, you end up finding that teeth hurt, but not really bad, and it heals. Like, for example, I have no tattoos, nothing against tattoos, but I have a whole bunch of life tattoos from dogs. So looking at that, no, after a while, you'll get a puncture or two through a suit. Dog's doing nothing but coming in. Those canines are one thing I've learned once one of my dogs broke its tooth, that the part of the tooth that you see on the canine, how long that is how long the root is. That's a unique fact. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. It does happen. They go through. I have plenty of scars to prove my working career in canine.
So, and then one thing I've noticed is a lot of guys they'll get that filling done, or that covering on some of the working line dog's teeth as well. Do you see that pretty often still, or is there any kind of misconceptions on that?
How I look at it, if you have a dog that it breaks its canine, what you have to remember in law enforcement, canines, we're teaching a dog to bite and hold. Now, that's why I laugh. Like earlier in the podcast, I said I get people that call out, they have their mean dog. We don't want mean dogs. That's the coolest thing about dogs. Dogs are so they're not subjective. They're so objective. I mean, when stuff goes bad in a dog world and you're watching these videos, 99% of the time, it's the handler that has caused that, not the dog. So getting back to the whole tooth, if they break it and it can get capped, we'll do that, especially if it's a canine. But like they break their front incisors, we usually pull them, get them out. Sometimes as they get even older, if you have a dog that's biting full mouth with rear molars, you don't even need the front, because we're teaching a full mouth bite. We're teaching a dog, really, when you look at it in law enforcement, that dog gives you 3 to 5 seconds to escalate, de-escalate force. What most people don't realize, it legitimately is used for pain compliance. We're not looking to severely injure anybody in law enforcement when it comes to a canine bite. We're looking for pain compliance.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for. I mean, I've been bitten without a suit where all I have is 2 punctures. 4 punctures, 2 on top, 2 on the bottom, and no other injuries. I mean, and that's pretty amazing that you get bit by a dog with a lot of bite pressure and have minimal injuries. The reason I had minimal injuries, I didn't try to remove my arm from the dog's mouth. Yeah. If I'm going to thrash and pull my arm away, that's going to injure me more than just being calm and letting the handler handle it and take the dog off.
Yeah. So almost like it's like that whole alligator scenario where like they will get prey and then they'll roll, and that's where kind of the damage comes from. But just the, like you said, like the apprehension and like the actual bite, and as long as you don't try to tangle.
If you train the dog properly, the dog doesn't thrash, the dog is calm, the dog is not, and you can counter, and we teach the dog all those basic things.
Right. And like you said, objective too. So I mean, and I think, like you said, it's a misconception that there's, dogs are aggressive, or like, but it's all, it's teaching behind that, and objective, and kind of like what their mission is to do and to reinforce that. So it's not like them always in a pissy attitude and ready to bite the hell out of somebody. It's, that's what channeling all that natural stuff going through.
And that's why you have to get proper training. I mean, it really, and I get to travel the country looking at dogs, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a dog that's just looking to be aggressive. I'm looking at a dog that's going to be calm, cool, has a light switch. And then once I have a dog that's selected, I start building that bite picture. I teach failures on dogs' parts are a lack of handlers and trainers' understanding of how to train a dog, and understanding that a dog's world is a stimulus response reaction. So we teach, once again at Astro, a clear-headed dog by building a clear picture of what we want that dog to do. That picture of bite picture, narcotic work, and doing that and channeling all those natural behaviors.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that. You said something just then that I think was totally on cue. And I think it's a lot of some of the maybe old school mentality of kind of like training dogs, and it doesn't, not necessarily just working line or any kind of personal protection, but just training in general, like that stimulant and positive reinforcement of attitudes and stuff like that. And I think that was something that was kind of that I learned my training the dog for the first time myself was like, misconception of like popping dogs for, doing an accident, which, like you said, it's the handler's fault, which is funny because I was just talking with Adam and going through stuff and going back and reading through the books before getting the dog and going through stuff. And it was like you said, that positive reinforcement. So if the dog does something that's undesirable, it's not the dog's fault. That's, like you said, it's the handler, but it's the handler's fault, like for a dog peeing in the house or something like that, which was something I was trying to relay to someone. It's like, well, if he's going to the bathroom inside the house, it means that you didn't take him out when you were supposed to, or you haven't, that's a lot of that reinforcement.
Yeah. But I mean, it really goes that way. I mean, it kind of goes to one of the things. I had a Australian Shepherd that I gave my brother years ago. It's kind of a funny story. So years ago, this dog is like so cool, so chill. I mean, just 200 miles per hour. If you know Australian Shepherd, loved him. His name was Sperry, named after Sperry shoes. Go figure. I like fishing. But needless to say, I give him my brother's dog passes away, and I give him that dog. And I get a call like 2 to 3 years later from my sister-in-law. She calls me. She's like, Sperry bit Austin. And I'm like, that's weird. I would never saw that. She's like, no, not Sperry's fault. Austin put his finger in his eye. And that's kind of like when you look at it, you get a lot of accidental bites that occur because of humans, not so much the dog.
Right.
So, and that's in every breed.
Yeah, but to say it's not necessarily breed specific. It's just
no.
It's dog. It's the handler, knowing how to implement that stuff and having that so it's like A plus B is equals C is what I try to tell people is like, so you have this action plus this actual and action, and this is the result that you get from that. So if you want a different result, you have to change the actions prior to. To give.
Wow. And most people don't realize when they're training, like even one little hint I can give. I mean, when you look at it, it's the timing of the reward, the anticipation of the reward, and the placement of the reward that gets that whole kilter completely off scale. And if you don't know how to manipulate that to your advantage on different dogs that come in, that's where your downfall is. I mean, and that's the biggest thing we use. But I mean, we're huge on food reward in the beginning. We like to use, especially at Astro, we use everything. Food, motivation, and then we kind of go from when a dog has finally learned its behavior. Now you can go to corrections. I watch so many people go straight to compulsion, especially with puppies and younger adolescent dogs. I'm like, why? I don't understand. If the dog has any confusion in it, why we're trying to use compulsion. And not saying it, if I have a non-bite dog and it's a dog that's come in and we're working it at Astro for the like just the pet side.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a few, like there's a golden rule. You're not going to show unprovoked aggression. Unprovoked aggression will get a correction at Astro. And the reason why is because, once again, if people understood dog psychology and understood that the reward systems of a dog, which we teach at Astro, and how to fix it and how to correct it. If you control the dog's basic needs and you understand reward systems, you can pretty much fix any dog behavior.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm about to say, you reinforce that, and then the dog is going to want that behavior, want that reward, and will do whatever it takes to learn what the reward is and trying to hone that in. Very cool. So I will say I do have one question, and this is something that I've tangled with, and then I've had people ask me as well, is, so we talked about like treats and rewards and stuff like that, but with dieting with dogs, so there's always an aspect of of a kibble versus raw, and then there's always, some aspects of pros and cons of each. Obviously, with raw, it's probably more natural. It's kind of like what they're kind of like, based on instinctual is supposed to get, but also you have a pretty big price tag. But then you also have kibble that you kind of have to balance out, and you have to weed out all the really bad manufacturers and stuff like that. So what's y'all's opinion on kibble versus raw and how to combat that?
Well, the thing for us, we use, and I believe, well, there are two reasons. I mean, number one rule is what works for the dog and its digestive system. So that's number one. When you look at that, you look at this whole argument of grain free versus grain. I literally look at it. Get on a good food that your dog's stomach will go to. Get a high quality food, research that food, look at that. But we want to make sure that now looking at the raw food versus kibble. Okay. In the daily life of Doug Wanamaker, if I used raw food, I would be so busy cleaning up bowls, crates, and everything else. Because let's put this out. I don't know that many people that want to give their dogs raw chicken. Yeah. Go in, put it in. Okay, salmonella exists. So unless I'm going to clean, so now my dog, who is now eating raw chicken, licks my daughter. Yeah, for me, it's one of those. Am I going to clean my dog's mouth? Am I going to clean its bowl every time? Am I going to clean its crate where it's been? Because I really don't want to get sick. And that's one of the inventions of kibble. There's plenty of studies that says the raw food is a good diet, but you're going to have to put protocols in. Do you want to do that extra cleaning? Then it's okay to do that if you want to. You have to be careful though. One of the disadvantages of raw food, and this could happen for the dogs, not all dogs, and that's the thing with you can't say everything's bad for something. So it's the handler or the owner has to choose which one. But if you have a food aggressive dog, it makes no sense to give it raw food, in my opinion, because you're getting closer to that. You're getting bones, you're getting everything else that comes into that. For me and my family, we go with kibble. Number one, I don't have to worry so much about the extra cleaning and everything else, and we still clean our dog bowls every time. But I don't get so worried about transfer of salmonella and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Would you say is there a certain balance of like protein and fat? Kind of like I know with like it's people kind of like to forget that with human say like exercising, working out. Obviously, you have to have a certain amount of protein, macros, and stuff like that. But same, dogs are the same, so you need to have a correct balance. Is there a good balance for dogs?
For me, it's getting a high quality food. If you get a high quality food, that you're going to have the right proteins in there. You're going to have the right fats. You're going to have. When you're looking at all the sporting ends, if you looked at some of Victor, you looked at some of Diamond. You have so many people that are out there doing supplements and everything else, which is a good thing. Like for me, glucose. For shepherds. I would be getting my dog on a good high end where most people in the United States fail. It's kind of like it's more of a preventative than something it's like if you have bad knees and then all of a sudden you start taking glucosamine, well, you should have been taking it prior to the effects of bad knees. So I'm a big component on glucosamine, like off the start. Once that dog's developed, just give it or find a food with it. Now, talking about protein, I don't like going anything above 28 grams, because after a while you'll start getting dogs like Malinois can actually get more aggressive the more protein you get them. There's some studies on that. I don't know. I've never really been out to do the study for it, but if there's a study out there looking at it and it says, hey, higher proteins have a possibility to cause more aggression, because you have to remember what influences a dog's behavior. Well, one of those things is the amount of chemicals and everything else and the amount of nutrition you eat. That could be a possibility for that uncontrolled aggression, or not uncontrolled aggression, but more aggressive towards it. Well, and then I would reduce the protein. For me. So like I'm looking at that number of like 20, I'm looking at 25 to 28 right there, and getting a high quality food looking at it.
Good stuff. I'm about to say, it's funny that you mentioned that. So Victor, I think is what I think we've been going through. We normally get for our dogs, and it's funny. It's kind of like that, but it's funny. People will go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a pet or all the toys or even on meal themselves, but they won't spend the money on a good quality dog food as well.
And that's the one thing. You are what you eat. It truly is. So I suggest always getting a high end. It doesn't have to break the bank. There's plenty of food out there that is high quality, a price point of like $48 to $52 for that 35-pound bag is right where you should be sitting. I mean, there's other competitors out there. I won't name them. I mean, you're looking at $90 a bag. I mean, but when you're looking at your sporting ends, you're looking at your high drive dogs, you're looking at your working dogs, you want to give them the nutrition they need to actually be able to sustain to stay working. I mean, you're looking at dogs, for example, you look at a human remains dog, search and rescue, working hundreds of acres one day. Oh, yeah. I tell people, you have to look at your dog. Your dog works more, feed them more. Your dog works less, feed them less. It's not like, I laugh at, we have all these studies out here. You know how I can lose weight? I eat less. Okay. I work out more. I get to eat more. We can have all these studies and everything else. You need to go, oh, keto, you need to do this. Well, in the dog world, it's the same thing. In my world is like today, we just finished working 10 dogs. We killed it today, getting some narcotic detection throws in. Those dogs are spent. Well, guess what? They got extra food early this morning and tonight, because they worked more, because they burnt more calories. So you burn more calories, they get to eat more. So buying a high quality food, changing the amount of food you feed your dog daily based on their activity level is the key to a healthy dog.
Another thing on that too, we get a lot of clients that bring dogs in that vary in size, and they're like, oh, well, on the internet it said I need to give my dog this much food. Well, if your dog's getting really large, scale back their food. Now, if your dog is getting skinny, feed them more. It's that simple. But a lot of people, they think that they read something and then that's like the Bible, but it's dependent on each dog, and people lose sight of that. They just read one thing and they think that's it. It's not. It's dog dependent.
And then the other thing too, people have to remember a cup is a cup. It's not like going to your QT or your gas station and getting a 44-ounce cup. So a cup of food is a cup of food.
Like a legit measurement, not some eyeball in it either.
Like your little measuring cup you use for baking and all that stuff too.
Just
to clarify, just in case.
The plastic ones are perfect. Yeah. Like, get the plastic cheap ones. They are good. They can measure your food. You can keep track of it that way. Yes. Don't try to eyeball it.
That's awesome. I think that kind of serves up, and I have to ask one silly question, and maybe it is maybe a little more serious, but when you have movies that are like, and the famous one that I'm going to say now, like John Wick coming out, and
the Mello was?
Yeah, and I would say, so like my buddy and my friend and I were talking about this, and we both agreed, when you start seeing stuff with movies and stuff like that, you know how, someone goes to the movies, they see this and like, oh man, that would be so cool if that could happen. And obviously 99% of the time, the person who is thinking that normally doesn't need to be in those situations where they go and get something like a Malinois, for instance. So, with movies like that, is that a big influence of people calling you and trying to? Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like you said, John Wick, you see, like, these people watch John Wick and they see a Malinois that's doing all this high speed stuff.
Right.
And these people don't understand. They work a job during the day. Like, you're not solely going to be with that dog. So you have this high drive Malinois that's literally eating a plastic kennel to get out of it and terrorizing your house. And you're like, what did I get into? Think before you buy a dog. It is a huge response, especially a high drive dog. When you're looking at these working line dogs, these German Shepherds, these Belgian Malinois, these dogs with high energy, high drive, we put countless hours into it. We cannot preach enough how many hours we put into these dogs, and we work these dogs. These dogs deserve to be worked. They don't deserve to go to a house and just sit there, and then you're expecting to be like John Wick and, doing all this high speed stuff through your house. It's not going to happen.
Or Halle Berry, for that matter.
You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Speaking of with Halle Berry, supposedly she did get really, really into working line dogs after that, and apparently invested a lot of time and started taking courses. So they say. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but that's what I had read after being around the dogs a good bit, that she was like 100% gung ho when she started investing a lot of time and money, and then I think she started taking
she's
courses.
Listening, tell her to come to Astro, bro. Or I'm going to answer that. Come to Astro. We'll get that training in there.
That's awesome.
It is. If anybody ever comes up and you start it, and that's when you look at the working lines and you get addicted to the sports side. I mean, I'll be honest, you get in the American, you get in the PSA, you get into French ring, all that. It's an addiction. There's a lot of good trainers out there that do awesome things when it comes just to the sporting side. And it's when I went to trainer school, I learned from one of the best sporting trainers, and that's where his passion was, and he bled into law enforcement, and I've been on my side on the law enforcement side, and it really is. It's getting. The adrenaline rush, being able to do that, to have the command and do that is pretty intense.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I think one misconception, and then I'll shift gears a little bit, but it's funny that I think people forget just how intelligent dogs are as well, especially these high-speed breeds, especially working line dogs. These guys are sharp as tacks, and they can just read everything. Like you said, with working, like, going to the house and stuff like that, and picking up on those little things that dogs will see, and they start having like these reactions before the doorbell even rings, like you said. I think they really don't get the rep that they deserve about how intelligent they really are. It's incredible. It really is, especially seeing the gears move.
Yeah, it's awesome, and that's one of the things that I love. When you get to it, it's one of the things I like doing. I like working the green dogs. I like working the puppies, because the one thing, if people could be more like puppies or even dogs, because they're forgiving, they're working, they go out. It really is. It's like I said, I've been blessed to be able to work with all the dogs that have come through my hands, and it's fun. It's good memories, because they are smart, and I love watching them learn, and their learning curve, once they start picking it up, it rockets. Like every canine class I have, and I warn my handlers, I'm like, hey, look, there's a point where you're going to have to pick up your pace, because your dog's going to be smarter than you. And it's usually right around 100 to 150 hours. Like we start capping and putting obedience on it. And the handler's like, my dog's learning so quick. I'm like, yeah, now pick it up, because this is what I was talking about day one. The dogs would start picking up, because they can chain tasks really quick. After you put that good hard foundation in on the basic tasks, then you make the multiple complex tasks, and they start picking it up.
That's awesome. So with that being said, we'll kind of tidy everything up with Astro. And before I do, though, so what all does Astro Kennels actually provide as a whole? Like, what all do you guys offer to the public and to other agencies, et cetera?
Yeah, man, that's the blessing that my father-in-law and mother-in-law had when they opened it up. That they're dog people themselves. That's how I actually met them, is through search and rescue. So they have been involved with dogs their whole life, from puppy rearing all the way to search and rescue, to even personal protection and sport work. But Astro Kennels, we offer day boarding. We offer long-term boarding, where you can do overnight, do that. We have different packages for that. Our training side, we offer group classes. We offer one-on-one training, in-home training. From the personal protection side, we offer you coming in, you already have a personal protection dog. Hey, come to us. We'll help you maintain that. And that's one of the things that, anybody that's hearing this, you have a dog, come up to Astro. We'll do an assessment. We'll help you. We'll come back and we'll help you do that security clear of your house and give you some insight on that. From the law enforcement side, we pretty much do everything. You call us with a need of what you need with your dog, and we'll acquire it, train it, and teach you. We offer basically a 6 to 8 week course with a fully trained dog. We also offer an instructor course, which I highly suggest for a lot of people to come in. That is a 16-week intense course. You learn all dog behavior, everything else coming in, but we tailor everything. So Astro Kennels, like I said, we're offering day boarding. We're offering overnight boarding. We do group classes, one-on-one training at the kennel, and we do in-homes. Cool. And the good thing about Astro, we have, the way we've worked it, we've tailored all our training programs. From law enforcement side, we're a little different, and I just have to give this plug, where you get a lot of competitors, big box stores teach hand signals. Sure. You have to remember, when your dog's running away from you, unless you can run 28 miles per hour, you might not be able to stop it. So we teach, that's our advanced class. So we're completely different than all our competitors. It's what makes us unique, is we literally teach obedience. The dog understands vocal commands. So when you say sit, it sits under high stress and everything else. And our classes teach that, and our boot camps and our long-term plan. We have a tailored plan for every dog that comes in.
I think the biggest thing too is, these people see stuff online and movies, stuff like that, and it's so cool and everything, but is it practical? You have to ask yourself, is it practical? All of our training is based on real world scenarios, stuff that we've been through, that we know works and it's practical. Like it's actually usable. You know, when like Doug was saying, when that dog's running away and you go do a hand signal up for it to sit, it's not watching you. But when you yell at the dog to sit and it sits, that means something. You know, we have that good foundation.
Very cool. I totally, and that was, it's funny that you bring up the hand signals. That was like one thing that Adam scolded me on one time. He was like, hey, remember, just put your hands behind your backs or in your pockets, because you want to teach a command, not a hand signal, because,
Well, yeah. And the secret to that, and I'll give it out because it's one of those things. Reason the big box stores do that, they're going to want you get really quick success with it. But the problem is, as I told you, stimulus response. So the dog sees hand go up, treat in hand.
Yep.
He's being obedient to a hand signal, not a vocal command. But we do have hand signals in our advanced class. We do teach it. We teach directionals, but it's last. We have that good foundation. So voice commands come first, and we work it out that way. So it is a very unique system.
Very cool. That's awesome. So that is Astro Kennels itself. And as always, I always kind of wrap everything up, and I try to just get it, outside of work and, just kind of make it more relaxed. But what is, for each of you guys, outside of work and outside of Astro and working dogs, when you have free time, because like you said, having a dog is a full-time job. It's a life. So what do you enjoy doing when you do have those free times?
Well, for me, I'm a saltwater guy. I like saltwater fishing, but that happens rarely because I don't have many days off. 2 full-time jobs. You kind of sit there and go back, and obviously family, love my family, but that's one thing. So my pastime, I love offshore fishing. That's one of my things. I mean, freshwater fishing's okay. I'll take it, which I do that a little bit more because I can go out and do that. But I mean, you throw something in and you get a tuna and you're fighting it for a while. That's fun. And hence where that story back earlier about a dog named Sperry, boat shoes are a thing. So.
Very cool. How about you, Mello?
So I'm more of a freshwater guy. I like chilling on the lake, drinking some cold beers and catching fish, not having to fight so hard. I like to relax on my days off. And then I ride motorcycles and just hang out with my friends, enjoy life, soak it up.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Good stuff. Well, just to wrap everything up, that was so much information. It's hard to believe it's been an hour and 15. That feels like 3 hours. I feel like I just went through a course itself, but that is awesome though. I mean, there's just so much information you can really soak up without even, it's, again, you won't be able to get it all unless you go in and actually take it and then go to a course and stuff. But that's a lot of really, really cool info that I'm sure a lot of people don't know about. But I want to appreciate both of you guys taking your time out of your, busy day, very busy day, as you already said, and jumping on and kind of going through some of the info of working line dogs and personal protection and everything that you guys are able to offer. And where are some good places that they can contact you guys at?
So if you're on the inner tubes there, you can find us at astrokennels.net. On Facebook, we have Astro Kennels, and we also have Astro Working Dogs. If you're a fan of Instagram, you can follow us on Astro Working Dogs, all one word, or Astro_Kennels. So awesome. The working dog side, we have our own pages for, and then the pet side of things, we have another page for that.
Very awesome. And I'll link that so everyone can find those a little faster too, in case if you're like me and you hear something and it just kind of gets melted as you try to think about it. So I will definitely link that up for everybody so you'll have it directly linked. And again, I appreciate you guys so much for taking time out of your busy day and coming on and answering some questions and hopefully helping some folks out and maybe gearing them towards you guys.
Well, we definitely appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, man. Hopefully you'll get down to Astro soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to make my way. I think things are starting to slow down a little bit so I can finally head my way up and at least pop my head in or do something soon. So
definitely you have to come when it comes in the fall. We just finished our last dock diving thing, and it was that's pretty fun. You have to come up for that. So we have open dock. Kind of people bring their own beer and that kind of thing and do their thing on the dock.
That'd be awesome, man. Absolutely. Thanks again. All right, guys, you have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.